Hare Krishna. Welcome back, beloved ones. We are restarting the video tonight. Last night it stopped the transmission, and it didn't show that it stopped on my phone, the ones we're recording on, but it showed on other people's phones who were watching. And we're monitoring now with another device, with Bhaktamat's device, and now we've realized that perhaps when we get a notification from the phone from which we are hotspotting, that it stops the transmission. It's a very good chance that this is a fact. So hopefully we've solved the problem. So now you get a bonus. You get 2 instead of 1 for today. And yesterday you didn't get any. So we're trying. We're trying to give you some nectar, double your fun over here. So now we're going to start again with the 12th verse. And hopefully we didn't miss anything. Hopefully you don't miss anything. Because we just noticed that the transmission stopped. So here we are. Lord Boar is responding to Hiranyaksa, who has said some rather piercing and unpleasant words to the Lord. And we're learning that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has feelings too, because He's a sentient being. And because we're a part of the sentient being, infinitesimal part, we also have feelings. So why shouldn't the Supreme Being have feelings? So now he's going to express those feelings to Hiranyaksa. This is 3:18-12. You are supposed to be the commander of many foot soldiers, and now you may take prompt steps to overthrow us. Give up all your foolish talk and wipe out the cares of your kith and kin by slaying us. One may be proud, yet he does not deserve a seat in an assembly if he fails to fulfill his promised word. Now there's a good lesson. Purport. A demon may be a great soldier and commander of a large number of infantry, but in the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is powerless, and he is destined to die. The Lord therefore challenged the demon not to go away, but to fulfill his promised word to kill him. Text 13. Sri Maitreya said, the demon, being thus challenged by the Personality of Godhead, became angry and agitated, and he trembled in anger like a challenged cobra. Purport. A cobra is very fierce before ordinary persons, but before an enchanter who can play with him, he is a plaything. Similarly, a demon may be very powerful in his own domain, but before the Lord, he is insignificant. The demon Ravana was a fierce figure before the demigods, but when he was before Lord Ramachandra, he trembled and prayed to his deity, Lord Shiva, but to no avail. Text 14. Hissing indignantly, all his senses shaken by wrath, the demon quickly sprang upon the Lord and dealt him a blow with his powerful mace. Text 15. The Lord, however, by moving slightly aside, dodged the violent mace blow aimed at his breast by the enemy, just as an accomplished yogi would elude death. Purport. The example is given herein that the perfect yogi can overcome a death blow, although it is offered by the laws of nature. It is useless for a demon to beat the transcendental body of the Lord with a powerful mace, for no one can surpass his prowess. Those who are advanced transcendentalists are freed from the laws of nature, and even a death blow cannot act on them. Superficially, it may be seen that a yogi is attacked by a death blow, but by the grace of the Lord, he can overcome many such attacks for the service of the Lord. As the Lord exists by his own independent prowess, by the grace of the Lord, the devotees also exist for his service. Text 16. The personality of Godhead now exhibited his anger and rushed to meet the demon, who bit his lip in rage, took up his mace again, and began to repeatedly brandish it about. Text 17. Then with his mace the Lord struck the enemy on the right of his brow. And since the demon was expert in fighting, O gentle Vidura, he protected himself by a maneuver of his own mace. Text 18. In this way the demon Hiranyaksa and the Lord, the personality of Godhead, struck each other with their huge maces, each enraged and seeking his own victory. Purport. Hiranyaksa is another name for Hiranyaksa, the demon. Text 19. There was keen rivalry between the two combatants. Both had sustained injuries on their bodies from the blows of each other's pointed maces, and each grew more and more enraged at the smell of blood on his person. In their eagerness to win, they performed maneuvers of various kinds, and their contest looked like an encounter between two forceful bulls for the sake of a cow. Purport. Here the earth planet is called Ila. Ila. This earth was formerly known as Ilavrita-varsha. And when Maharaj Parikshit ruled the earth, it was called Bharata-varsha. Actually, Bharata-varsha is the name for the entire planet, but gradually Bharata-varsha has come to mean India. As India has recently been divided into Pakistan and Hindustan, similarly the earth was formerly called Ilavrita-varsha, but gradually, as time passed, it was divided by national boundaries. Text 20. O descendant of Kuru, Brahma, the most independent demigod of the universe, accompanied by his followers, came to see the terrible fight for the sake of the world between the demon and the personality of Godhead, who appeared in the form of a boar. Purport. The fight between the Lord and the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the demon is compared to a fight between bulls for the sake of a cow. The earth planet is also called Go, or cow, as bulls fight between themselves to ascertain who will have union with the cow. There is also a constant fight between the demons and the Supreme Lord, or his representative, for supremacy over the earth. Here the Lord is significantly described as Yagyavayana, Yagyavayava. Here the Lord is significantly described as Yagyavayava. One should not consider the Lord to have the body of an ordinary boar. He can assume any form, and he possesses all forms eternally. It is from him that all other forms have emanated. This boar form is not to be considered the form of an ordinary hog. His body is actually full of yajna, or worshipful offerings. Yajna, sacrifices, are offered to Vishnu. Yajna means the body of Vishnu. His body is not material. Therefore, he should not be taken as an ordinary boar. Brahma is described in this verse as Swarat. Actually, full independence is exclusive to the Lord himself. But as part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, every living entity has a minute quantity of independence. Each and every one of the living entities within this universe has this minute independence. But Brahma, being the chief of all living entities, has a greater potential of independence than any other. He is the representative of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and has been assigned to preside over universal affairs. All other demigods work for him. Therefore, he is described here as Swarat. He is always accompanied by great sages and transcendentalists, all of whom came to see the bullfight between the demon and the Lord. Text 21. After arriving at a place of combat, Brahma, the leader of thousands of sages and transcendentalists, saw the demon, who had attained such unprecedented power that no one could fight with him. Brahma then addressed Narayana, who was assuming the form of a boar for the first time. So we'll stop our reading here. It's a little more than an hour we've been going. And we have two resultant recordings for today. It'll double your fun. So now we're going to turn over the chair to the reflections, questions, or anything that's stuck out of the mind during the reading. Anyone is welcome. Those who are watching live may please give reflections or ask questions. We have our Bhakti Matt here, our techie, is also absorbed. I can see when he hears, he's always very absorbed, concentrated. So let's start. I'll wait for someone to start, and before I say anything, if I do. Hare Krishna. The battle between Lord Boar and the demon Hiranyaksa.
Someone said that the signal was a little disturbed, but it's back on now.
Who said?
Rocky said that the signal was a little bit disturbed, but it's back.
Did she miss? Oh, I guess it's not possible to have a conversation with her. I probably could through the Skype. I could probably have a conversation with her right now. Anyway, I got a message during this transmission. I got a message from Hannah. Okay.
I have a reflection.
Okay, but the Matt's got a reflection. It's okay, that's the nature of resistance to this variety. It's the spice of life.
I just thought it was interesting that the demons and the atheists were analogous of each other, as the way that they were described here. So the characteristics of demoniac personalities are the same characteristics we can see in even modern atheist behavior.
Yeah, actually,
So.
It's a very good point. It's hooked on the yeah, there you go. Very nice point. Actually, it's not that the atheists resemble the demons. The atheists are demons, and the demons are atheists. They're actually the same persons. They may be in a different dress. They may be modern nowadays, and may be more clearly delineated or differentiated in ancient times, at the beginning of the universe, because there were so few of them. But as Prabhupada, many times would point out, now most of the population is atheistic. As time passes, and seasons change. It's like now we're coming into winter. It's going to get really cold pretty soon. It's still not really cold, but it's getting there, and we'll put on our coats and bring out our heaters, and have to change our way of protecting ourselves in the different seasons, with different ways of being comfortable, feeling comfortable. So in the larger cycles of time, when it comes to Kali Yuga, then the population increases. It's an obvious point, but as we were reading, and it was describing the different symptoms, that show that by nature, these are laws of nature. This is not just somebody's speculation. That's what makes these scriptures so profound, because they're actually explaining to us what's happening, what's going on, and all of the, especially now, in the last 20, 30 years, even in the last 5 or 10 years, the weather patterns, there's this whole thing about climate change, and they can't put two and two together, that what they're doing, they're trying, there are still good people, there are always good people on the earth, and the good ones are trying to say, look, this is happening as a result of the things that we're doing, we need to adjust our activities. But the demons, their only consideration is money, women, and sense gratification. That's it. Power. That's it. So therefore you can see, even what's going on today in the world leadership, especially America, which is the leading country of the world, and now it's got a leader that just could care less. It could care less about the earth. It could care less about the poor people, or the people who are less fortunate, or aren't able to play a fair, because the game is not fair anymore, and they're getting left behind. This is not governance. So it's interesting, isn't it, that the Lord came, and Krishna always comes to protect the devotees. And in some ways they're innocent, although demigods their bodies are in the mode of goodness, as we heard, and therefore the bodies in the mode of goodness, they can do things that passionate, ignorant bodies can't do. But still they're dependent on Krishna, they're dependent on the supreme will and on the laws of nature. So it's interesting, isn't it, that just when these two demons, they were among the first demons, Kaitaba and Madhava, I think, were killed before these demons, but maybe that was a different millennium. Could have been a different millennium. But anyway, in this millennium, they were the first, according to the text. And all the different, inauspicious signs. And it talked about hurricanes and wind pulling up trees and everything becoming disturbed. And this is the nature of the demoniac nature. They like to turn everything upside down. They don't like order and structure and peace and harmony.
It's everything that we're experiencing now.
Yeah, it's to the max,
Yeah.
To the max.
Yeah.
And it's because people are not following the laws of nature, they're not having children religiously, they're like having them like dogs and cats and tigers and whatever, and therefore we have the situation the way it is. So when Srila Prabhupada insisted and repeated, that if we just, even some of us, act according to the laws of nature, follow the laws of nature, willingly and with affection for the source of the laws of nature, for the source of all of us, Krishna, then the atmosphere will get better. And especially we as devotees, and in our society, this fledgling society, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, just beginning. It's going to be around for 10,000 years, Prabhupada told us. We should have faith in these words. So it's going to take 10,000 years is a long time, relative to in our time. Maybe only a few minutes for Brahma, and a blink of an eye for Vishnu, Krishna.
We have 2 questions.
2 questions, yes.
Rati Manjari has a couple questions. So we'll do the first one. It was said that the devotees want to uplift society spiritually, and the demons want to uplift society materially in terms of comfort. This triggered a question about a theme which comes up in my semi-householder life. How important is it for devotees to strive after comfort?
Devotees don't have to strive after comfort. Devotees have to strive after the comfort of Krishna. And in so doing, Krishna responds by making their lives comfortable. In other words, devotees become comfortable without working too hard. If you're working too hard and you're suffering from that, then probably you're doing too much, or we're doing something for ourselves rather than for Krishna. But if we, and this, I know this is it seems idealistic, but those of us who have actually given our whole lives to Krishna without any effort at maintaining ourselves, we're being maintained in ways. I mean, when I used to work, and of course I didn't work very much, it's been 50 years since I've had a job, but the level of comfort that I have now compared to when I was working, full-time on a job, there's no comparison. I mean, I'm just using myself as an example because that's all I know, really, directly through my senses. I can't experience the feelings of other people's in their bodies and their senses. But that's my experience. And we read about it in the purports, and in other words, to the degree that we are trying to be comfortable, to that degree we also have to experience an equal and opposite amount of discomfort. But if we give ourselves to Krishna completely, and that doesn't mean that we don't make an effort to maintain our bodies and to be healthy. And this is the crux of the question. It's the issue is what does that mean? It means that we use our independent will to keep ourselves healthy so that we can serve and please Krishna. That's the motive. If the motive is to do that, we may be a king. Look at Yudhishthira, how comfortable they were in one sense, but in another sense, look at the trouble they had to take in order to get that level of comfort. Demigods, they live in much more comfortable than we do. But look, when they have problems, they're really big problems, So it's like that. So the scriptures advise us not to work too hard to make ourselves comfortable, but to make our environment, mold our lives in such a way, as Prabhupada would say, so that we can always be thinking of Krishna in love. And Krishna will reciprocate with us. And without too much endeavor, without over-endeavor, we will be more and more comfortable because we need less and less to feel comfortable. But even the creature comforts, human beings are not meant to live like animals, But how much we have creature comforts, that's arranged by Krishna according to what we deserve. Every one of us, without exception, is getting exactly what we deserve. And once we accept that and become satisfied with that, then we become comfortable. Even if we have less or more creature comforts, we'll feel comfortable. Anyway, those are some thoughts. The next question?
It was kind of a follow-up to the first one, and I think you answered it, but I'm going to read it anyways. Rati Manjari continues, like you are mentioning, it gets cold and we want to keep ourselves warm and comfortable so we can peacefully chant in our homes. Then we also hear that human life is meant for purification and austerity. Could you comment on how we as aspiring devotees can keep a healthy balance in our striving for comfort as well as purification?
Yeah, we have a residue of feelings and thoughts that come from our Christian background, especially as Westerners. And we're thinking that austerity means pain. We're thinking that doing austerity means that we have to be suffering. But austerity doesn't mean to be in pain or to be in suffering. And there's where the line is. A devotee doesn't need to. Actually, it says in the Gita, doesn't it? Different austerities, and that austerity that creates pain in the body, actually tortures the body, is not actually austerity and goodness. It's a demoniac tendency actually to do austerity to the point where you're in pain, because Krishna's in the body with us, and he's going to be happy if we're torturing the body. We're his children, and he's going to be satisfied if we torture ourselves. So therefore we're in human bodies, we're in human life, and therefore we don't live like a dog and a cat in the street. We live in comfortable places, but according to the level of our spiritual advancement, we need more or less, and according to our service we may need more or less. Maharaj Yudhishthira, do you remember? Maharaj Yudhishthira was once asked by Krishna for a benediction, and he said, I want to be the most powerful and famous person in the world, an opulent person in the world. And Krishna says, that's not right, that my devotees don't think like that. And Yudhishthira said, yes, because then when anybody asks me how that happened, I'll say, it's because I always think of Krishna. And if you want this, become a pure devotee of Krishna. So in that way, it's possible. I mean, I'm not saying that means that we can imitate Maharaj Yudhishthira and the great saintly kings of the earth, but certainly we can, in principle, follow this example and accept those things which are given to us without over-endeavor, without us being in pain and so much discomfort that we can't concentrate on Krishna. Sometimes I'm asked the question, how much sleep is too much? Because it says generally the yardstick is 6 hours. But if you're falling asleep whenever you open a book, it means you're not sleeping enough. If you need to take 8 hours to be able to read peacefully and hear and absorb, Krishna conscious philosophy, that's how much you should take. And eventually you'll become free from sleep, because in the spiritual world they don't sleep like we do. So you have to have a certain amount of sleep. You have to have a certain amount of food. You have to have a certain amount of recreation. Yukta hari viharasya, yukta chetasya karmasu, yukta swapna babodasya, yogo bhavati dukkha. Krishna says in the Gita, if you eat too much, or if you don't eat enough, if you sleep too much, or if you don't sleep enough, if you work too much, or if you don't work enough, if you have too much recreation, or if you don't have enough, then you can't perform yoga. And what that is, what the proportions or the quantities of those things are for each individual person differs. Is that something?
She said exactly yes.
Hare Krishna. Thanks, Rati, for that question. It was very nice, as usual. And I'm glad that we got. Did we get the full? Did we get the full broadcast tonight?
Yeah, we're live right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I posted the other ones.
Okay.
Right,
We didn't miss anything.
No.
Oh, good.
People are.
Oh, good. Good.
Vaishnavi is watching as well.
Vaish. Hey, I'm sorry I missed your phone call today. I was in the bathroom shaving my head. Hare Krishna. Of course, he's so great that it takes him 3 minutes to shave his head. It takes me about a half an hour. Hare Krishna. Well, we're here, Vaish, trying to follow in your footsteps and keep the vibration going, so that you can manage the movement, help to manage the movements. Hare Krishna. We got an email today from Srivas Das, a disciple of Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, who's he's a what do they call it? An officer, some kind of officer, empowered by the GBC to do something, and he's trying to to help promote the reading of Prabhupada's books, and he sent me a request, and I sent him my offerings for the last 4 years, and he sent back a very nice response, wishing me well and good fortune and success in our doing the audio books for the BBT and doing these readings. Hare Krishna. It be the way, the real way to happiness. Hare Krishna. Okay, it's getting late over here. We're going to stop now. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you tomorrow night. Same station, same channel, same nectar. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Lord Boar ki jai. Baraha Dev ki jai. Hiranyaksa, maybe a little jai, because he's doing some service, giving the Lord a little sport. Hare Krishna. Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.